Hello crows and non-crows alike, my name is Joe Mack, otherwise known as Support Crow, and today we are talking about morality systems and how Hogwarts Legacy 2 can fit in it, or rather Hogwarts Legacy 2 and how a morality system can fit into that. Anyway, now this is kind of coming off of a response from Ben Snow's video on morality, where he thinks, morality can be very difficult to implement, and that is certainly true. There are definitely some challenges that Hogwarts Legacy 2 there are definitely some challenges that Hogwarts Legacy 2 it has, essentially. However, I do not believe that these challenges are insurmountable. If you follow my content, you know that I'm a fan of Hogwarts Legacy, but you might also know that I am a great fan of choice and consequence type games, anything that lets you create your character, anything of a morality system. I am there, and I am willing to give it a shot. I am the kind of gamer that I am today because of Dragon Age Origins, which was a very beautiful game. Well, I don't know about beautiful, it looks like melted ice cream now. But anyway, what enraptured me, what enthralled me into being a fan of that was just how it was structured. You had different choices and you had different consequences, and there was a morality system in a manner of speaking. We'll get into that in a minute. And I just really enjoyed how different people reacted to different things. And I kept replaying the game over and over and over again, testing those boundaries. Now, I'm not saying that I'm an expert in morality systems. I'm not saying that I'm a game dev yet, but those kinds of games are something that I play, and they are something that I study. Any game with a morality system or a type of morality system treats it differently. It tweaks it ever so slightly, creating like a subcategory to play around with. Long story short, morality systems come in all shapes and sizes. It's not just heavenly vanilla and devious chocolate and slutty strawberry. No, there's a wide array of different flavors to choose from. And I think the challenge with Hogwarts Legacy 2, implementing some sort of morality system in there, isn't necessarily, hey, we're going to choose this kind of morality system and sticking to it. I think it's a combination of different flavors. But first, let's get into what these different flavors are. So we have different types of morality systems, like I said. So basically, if we break down a morality system, it has basically two parts. It has morality, as defined by the gameplay, and the system that is used to track that definition in terms of measurement, in some kind of measurement. So, you help Granny out of the pond, you get good points. If you help a fish across the street, you get bad points, or whatever. It doesn't matter. You put in X, you get Y, and different things happen based on the value of Y. However, the definition and the measurement can be interpreted and displayed in many different ways. So, for example, in Grand Theft Auto, you have the wanted system. That is one form of measurement, and it is technically a morality system. You have a list of things that the player should and should not do, and if a player does something they should not do, they get a star. That's the measurement. Right? Games like Black Flag, Red Dead Redemption, Fallout, Skyrim, and pretty much any game with a law system has that form of morality. Very simple. You have a list of things you should and should not do. If you do something you shouldn't do, you rack up, infamy or stars or a bounty or whatever. You get the point. Bad things happen, and your game becomes more challenging. Most games that feature morality do something I like to call blunt morality, where, for example, in Fable, if you're a good person, you get a halo. If you're a bad person, you get horns. In Infamous, your lightning goes red if you're being a bad person. If you're a good person, your lightning goes blue. In Mass Effect, you have Paragon actions, which light up a blue colored icon, and you are allowed to perform good actions. If you're doing bad things, you get the red colored icon, Renegade, and you're allowed to do those options. Blunt morality is really just, it's blunt. It is in your face. It is a clear indication about whether or not you're doing something good, whether or not you're doing something bad. For Fallout, you get that hear sound, and you get the Pit Boy guy with the devil horns. Another kind of morality is basically choice and consequence, a gray morality, where you are making choices that are basically gray. You don't really know whether or not they're going to be good or bad, but they do have good and bad consequences. Morality there is rather subjective. The second most morality system you are probably familiar with is what I call a reactive morality system, where that is used in Mass Effect again, Dishonored, especially Dragon Age, The Outer Worlds, Midnight Suns, Fallout 4, Baldur's Gate 3. Did I say Dragon Age? Anyway, yeah, Dragon Age again, why not? And Cyberpunk. These games have something very in common, although one of these is a bit more unique than the others, Dishonored. I'll get to that in a minute. I have Dragon Age and The Outer Worlds here, and they are unique. Well, they are similar in their morality, because yes, you can be a good or bad person, but it doesn't necessarily track how good of a person that you are. It tracks how other people react to you. So instead of there being like a good or bad bar, there's a relationship bar for each of your companions, and depending on where that bar is going determines kind of what happens to that companion. They may fall in love with you, they may straight up leave you, they might attack you. It depends on their specific moralities, but for the most part, if you are a genuinely good person that's going out of your way to do good things for kind of everyone involved, everyone kind of loves you, or at the very least likes you. If you are going out of your way to be a dick to everybody, then everyone's gonna hate you, and in Dragon Age's case, you're gonna be hurting later in the end game, because the more companions you have by the end game, the easier a certain part of it gets. And I won't spoil that for you. What's unique about Dishonored, because Dishonored does the same thing with the people, but it also does the same thing with the environment. Depending on how you play this game, how chaotic you are, whether or not you're like running around only killing people, or finding more innocent ways to deal with people, the better the world is, the brighter it is, the calmer things are, the less defensive everything is. The more chaotic you are, the more murderous, the more murder hobo you are in this game, the darker the world becomes. The plague runs rampant. There's security checkpoints that pop up. There's heightened security all over the place. People are just out for themselves and just being the worst that they can be, and it all kind of centers around you. This game, by the way, made me really fall in love with level design, because if you have not played this game yet, play it. Mass Effect does something similar. It kind of has both. So it has blunt morality, which revolves around you, but it also has a reactive morality, where your companions are reacting to the decisions you make, and depending on their own morality, they may choose different decisions. But again, for the most part, if you're a good person, most of those people are going to stick around. If you're a bad person, most of those people probably get ended up dead, especially if you're playing Mass Effect 2. Another great game I recommend. So yeah, for the most part, those are kind of the flavors of morality systems you are most likely going to come across. A morality that's based around you, a morality that's based on the morals of the people, the companions that you're with, a morality that reflects in the environment, a morality that has a strict code or a law that racks up points whenever you break it. These are all different flavors to play around with. But what kind of morality system are we going to have for Hogwarts Legacy 2? Now, if I'm being quite honest, being evil or being really mean in Hogwarts Legacy as it is right now, it's kind of lame and boring. Sorry, but it kind of is. And it's tricky because, if we were a fully grown wizard or witch that's sort of out there in the world, we could we could do a whole lot with morality, because at that point, you know, it's just a matter of running away from the cops. It's a bit more difficult since we are underage and in school, and the majority of the game revolves around that school, and the majority of the game kind of, you know, you can't have a sequel if you're expelled, right? So I don't believe we are going to see a law enforcement system or a bounty system, you know, a Grand Theft Auto wanted system in Hogwarts Legacy 2. Because at some point you get so far that you're just going to be expelled. It doesn't matter how many Dementors you beat back or how many Ors you Avada Kedavra. At some point, someone's going to recognize you and report what's happening. And as soon as that report happens, you're kind of done for. And that's not even taking the trace into account. For those of you who do not know, the trace is some sort of magical charm that's put on underage witches and witches that sort of track what spells happen around underage wizards and witches. It's not precise. It doesn't exactly say what spell is being cast by whom. But it's, you know, if Avada Kedavra is consistently pinged around one student, people are going to be a little curious. So yeah, I don't believe a wanted system is going to be a thing. If we do get Dementors in the sequel, it's probably going to be for a completely different reason. There's also the challenge of determining what is evil, what is bad, in terms of the magical wizarding gameplay. Because as been brought up, what differentiates turning someone into ice and exploding them from just casting Avada Kedavra? You know, at a glance, it seems like Avada Kedavra is the mercy kill compared to the other thing. So, in my opinion, I think that using any kind of spell to defeat other people, be it, you know, turning someone into an explosive barrel and then throwing that barrel off a cliff, or casting Avada Kedavra, or any other unforgivable whatever, all of that can be argued as self-defense, right? So moments where evil is truly, you know, defined without a doubt, these have to be moments where it's more cinematic, where there's a difference between casting Avada Kedavra on someone that's attacking you versus say a goblin that has surrendered, and you are in that moment, and instead of accepting their surrender, you decide, you switch the option down to murder kill, and you decide to cast Avada Kedavra on that unarmed, surrendering person, you know? That would be considered evil. Using Imperio to make someone attack somebody else during combat, that's morally gray. I mean, it's not great to brainwash someone into doing something else. But if a teacher catches you in the restricted section and you have the option to cast Imperial on them to kind of walk away and forget that you were there, that's evil, right? You know, of course you run the risk of them figuring out what you did, but still though. So in terms of morality for ourselves, whether or not we are good or bad, I think we could use blunt morality to kind of shape who we are, but it has to be through the use of specific events, right? If we just base it all on combat, then everyone's going to be evil all the time. There has to be moments throughout the story and moments throughout certain quests and whatnot where we are given the option to either do what is right or do what is easy, and that shifts the scales either way. Now, ultimately, this does not matter if nothing reacts to it. I believe we can achieve this two different ways, and I'm actually going to go back on the whole wanted system thing. Well, I mean, there isn't going to be a wanted system in the next game, but I do believe that there is going to be some sort of point system. Depending on how good or bad you are as a student in Hogwarts, you get points, and you get points taken away. This comes from your performance in class. This comes from how you treat other students. This comes from how you interact with the school and its surroundings. You get points and lose points depending on how you interact with the environment. But how would this actually look? So the house points as it is basically just an hourglass that starts at 0 and it goes up for however many it needs to go. And this becomes kind of tricky. You know, we can't start at 0, as any points above that is considered good points. You know, you got points, and I consider that makes it seem like you're a good person just by stepping out the door. But at the same time, you can't really put like a threshold. Like if you say you're a bad person up until you get 50 points, and then you're a good person beyond that, and that becomes a bit of a problem towards the start of the game, because, you know, just because you haven't gotten 10 points yet, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. I think the saving grace here, though, is that yes, you can have this overall points accumulated in the hourglass, but each and every student has their own individual contribution. For example, Ben Snow over here, he's put 75 points into his hourglass, and you know, that's great, it's awesome. However, over yonder, Chandler Wood over here, he's got negative 50 points. One has done enough to earn a lot of points, the other has done some things to make them lose a lot of points. And that total number shifts between positive and negative, depending on their actions. I think this would be a good way to go about it, because your morality isn't necessarily the overall points of your house, it is your contribution. And a person that has cost their house 50 points and is making no attempt to actually correct that, yeah, I can see other students kind of looking down on them. I can see the world reacting according to that. The third flavor in this Neapolitan mess is reactive morality, because we do have companions. Technically speaking, theoretically speaking, we have companions in the form of Sebastian and Ominous and Poppy and Natty and Amit, supposedly, and they have their own values and their own morals and whatnot. Depending on our different choices, they should react differently upon that. And although I enjoyed the quest that I went on with these companions, I could not help but feel that I was the companion in their journey, which is fine, which is great. You know, it gave us a glimpse into their worlds, into their stories, and they were all very beautiful. And I enjoyed most of it. However, when Hogwarts Legacy 2 comes around, I think the focus needs to be on the player and how whether or not they reciprocate the morals and lessons their companions have given them. You know, if our character treats a fantastic beast like crap, I expect Poppy to have some things to say about that. Now, all of that said, there is one big challenge that morality in Hogwarts Legacy 2 faces, and that's being fun. Across all of those games I just shown, all of them accomplish being fun, whether that's being a good character or a bad one. Characters of good morality should be rewarded, and characters of bad morality should also be rewarded in a different degree, and perhaps challenged. It's okay to make the game a tad bit more difficult, but it should never punish the player for wanting to be a bad person in a video game. You know, people like being evil shepherd in Mass Effect because sometimes it creates a level of challenge, other times it gets you different rewards, and sometimes it's just funny in a weird kind of way. The same has to be true for Hogwarts Legacy 2, otherwise a morality system of any kind just isn't going to work. Like everything in gameplay, it has to be fun, and it should never punish a player for wanting to play a different kind of way. That's why Baldur's Gate 3 works so well, because even if you do fail at trying something different, it's still fun. But what do you think? Do you think Hogwarts Legacy 2 should have a morality system? Do you enjoy morality systems in your video games? Let me know down in the comments. And FYI, Back to Hogwarts Day is September 1st, which means any kind of new potential news about Hogwarts Legacy 2, or its DLC, or this director's cut, or whatever they're working on, might be right around the corner. So eyes peeled. We might have we might have answers on this before we know it. Until then, though, be safe, be well, be kind. Bye-bye.